Good morning and welcome. I am Denise McCaffrey, Executive Director of Prevent Child Abuse Illinois, and on behalf of our partners, the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services and HSHS St. Mary's Hospital, I'd like to welcome you this morning. I'd also like to thank St. Mary's for hosting us here. This is a great backdrop for Child Abuse Prevention Month. We come together today to announce and recognize April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Across the country, thousands of individuals and organizations will be holding press conferences, sponsoring community events, hosting family activities, planting pinwheels, tying blue ribbons and bows, wearing blue clothes on certain days, and literally turning our communities blue by lighting up buildings, decorating parks, and painting sidewalks. Usually, when you ask one of us organizing one of these activities, why blue? What's the pinwheel for? Or why are you holding this particular event? We usually say to raise awareness and to educate people about the issues of child abuse and neglect. Those are fine answers. We need to raise awareness that child abuse, including child sexual abuse, neglect, it happens. It happens in our communities, it happens in our schools, in our places of worship, in youth groups, clubs, and sports programs, and among our families and friends. We need to educate adults that it is our responsibility to protect children, that all children deserve great childhoods, and that we all have a role to play in preventing abuse and neglect. Awareness and education are hugely important. However, this year, I think it's time to take our message one step further. Yes, the month of April, the pinwheel, and all the blue is to raise awareness and to educate, but it is also a call to action. Personally, I believe the world is ready for this call. A few years ago, we began hearing and reading about stories of child sexual abuse in the news. These stories began a dialogue of the issue and a movement towards change. I think the legal cases and all the stories in the news lately about sexual assaults, sexual abuse, and victims coming together to confront their abusers have built on that movement and have gained momentum. I'm inspired by the Me Too, Time's Up, and Never Again messages. And I believe that we are at a tipping point in this country where we can talk about child abuse, child sexual abuse, and neglect. We can talk about how it happens, who's at risk, and who's doing the abusing. We can talk about how childhood trauma impacts brain development and the future health of our children. We can talk about how the opioid crisis is impacting families and the children in those families. And we can openly discuss what each of us can do to protect our children. Truly, each of us have a role to play in preventing abuse. What can we do? Parents can learn the facts, learn how to talk with their children, and reach out for help if they need it. Lawmakers can fund programs and pass laws that put children and child safety first, like supporting home visiting programs, early intervention, after-school and preschool programs. Educators, law enforcement, civic groups, faith-based and other organizations can create a culture where no one is afraid to come forward or afraid to talk about child abuse. Survivors can tell their stories and can educate us on the realities of abuse and neglect and can help us understand what we need to do to mitigate the long-term effects of childhood trauma. And finally, all adults, each one of us, can learn the warning signs of abuse and neglect and can know that we are part of the solution. As adults, it is our responsibility to pay attention, to speak up, and to be willing to have the difficult conversations about preventing child abuse. Yes, April, the pinwheel, the blue ribbons, and all this blue can unite us in our goal to build healthy communities and to make the world a safe place for all children. So this year, if anyone asks you, what's the pinwheel for? Why are you wearing blue? Please tell them it's because you have answered the call to action to protect children. Because children are our future. All children deserve great childhood, and we all have a role to play in preventing abuse and neglect. So thank you for coming out today. We appreciate you being here, And now it is my honor to introduce President and CEO of St. Mary's Hospital, Joan Coffman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is truly my honor to be here. I think this really is the day that begins such an important movement to protect the health and safety of our children. St. Mary's Hospital is honored to host today's press conference to shed light on the importance of child abuse awareness and prevention. An innocent child's job should only be to learn, to grow, and to fully develop into the very best and happiest individual they can be. Our job is to do everything we can to give children a safe and healthy start to life, provide resources for ongoing development, and to intervene as first responders when and where appropriate. As first responders, it is our duty to promote better understanding and recognition of signs a child is being abused or neglected. By simply increasing awareness, we can help prevent our precious children from being victims in their homes, schools, and communities. A growing emphasis has been placed on the link between parental substance abuse and child abuse. It is estimated that up to 2/3 of all child maltreatment cases involve some level of substance abuse. Nationally, we see the incidence of opioid and other substances trending to epidemic proportions. Sadly, we also see an increased incidence of child abuse and neglect tied to that. We all have a role to play in preventing child abuse, and St. Mary's Hospital is committed to embracing those fighting the disease of addiction. Our Substance Abuse Treatment Center offers a range of treatment options designed to meet the patient's needs wherever they are on their journey. We respectfully work with patients through our 12-step Inspired program to achieve full recovery and healing. We implore you today, if you are battling an addiction and you need help, please reach out. We're here to help you. Our children's safety and happiness is truly worth the fight. Thank you all for being here today to promote awareness, share resources, and again, to protect the health and safety of our children. Thank you. It's my privilege to invite Mayor Moore-Wolfe.
Well, it is a great honor for me to be here today to share with you in this news conference. I come on behalf of Governor Bruce Rauner, who has a proclamation that I will now read. Whereas every child deserves to grow up in a nurturing environment free from abuse, neglect, violence, or endangerment of any kind, and whereas child abuse and neglect cases cause serious harm to child development and has lifelong effects that endanger safety, hinder permanency in relationships, and reduce well-being, creating greater demands on society, and whereas child abuse prevention is a shared responsibility, and finding solutions requires the involvement and collaboration of citizens, organizations, and government entities throughout Illinois and the country, and whereas Illinoisans make more than 250,000 calls to the Illinois Child Abuse Hotline each year, offer temporary safe haven for more than 14,000 children as foster families, and have provided permanent, loving homes for more than 15,000 children for adoption over the last decade. And whereas child abuse prevention programs in Illinois are effective, because partnerships created by the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, Prevent Child Abuse Illinois, Children's Home and Aid Society of Illinois, Children's Advocacy Centers of Illinois, Voices for Illinois Children, and other government entities, social service agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement agencies, businesses, and individual citizens. And therefore, I, Bruce Rauner, Governor of the State of Illinois, do hereby proclaim April 2018 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Illinois, and encourage all citizens to respond to the call of how will you help by supporting child abuse prevention programs and reporting suspected cases of abuse to the Illinois Child Abuse Hotline at 800-25-ABUSE. Thank you again. It is an honor to be here.
agency is a first responder for families in crisis. Every day, we see Illinois' most vulnerable children and their families. There are 16,376 children and youth in the care of our agency across the state. 42% of those children came to our attention in the first 3 years of their lives. Children birth to 3 cannot speak for themselves. They cannot feed themselves, and they cannot protect themselves. These are our most vulnerable children. They are often out of sight of everyone in the community except for their immediate families and their friends and neighbors. So when one of us from the larger community lays eyes on these children, or when they come to the attention of first responders like DCFS, what we observe and what we do becomes critically important. We may not have a second chance to get it right. This is why the focus on birth to 3 children is so important. Child abuse and neglect during infancy and early childhood negatively affects child development, including brain and cognitive development, attachment, and academic achievement. Abuse and neglect can have enduring physical, intellectual, and psychological impact during the life of the child as they move into adolescence and adulthood. When we join together at the community level to reach out and touch struggling families, we can prevent serious harm to young children. When we support parents and their families and help them to support their children, we can reduce trauma, and we give young children the best opportunity at a happy, healthy life. I want to thank you for joining us in recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Please join me in welcoming Steve Miller, Executive Director of the Illinois Court-Appointed Special Advocates.
Thank you, Cathy, and thanks to St. Mary's for inviting me today. At CASA, it seems we talk about court a lot. To be specific, to Juvenile Advocacy Court. Because that's where DCFS investigators seek to bring children into care, and that's where mothers and fathers lose temporary custody of their children. It can be heart-wrenching. Many of these children are assigned to CASA. But it is at St. Mary's where these children are first examined after being taken into protective custody. You can imagine what stories those children tell to the caregivers at St. Mary's. Stories of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, as well as neglect. Previous speakers have described some of the causes of abuse. I might add poverty, neighborhood deterioration, lack of opportunity, lack of family structure, and the desire for short-term gratification at the expense of long-term health. In our county, there were 286 new children brought under court supervision and placed in foster homes last year. That's versus 199 in 2016. At CASA, we've been paddling very fast to keep up with the number of children being assigned to CASA volunteer on this crazy 44% increase in the number of child victims. 3 years ago, our county was the second worst in Illinois for indications of child abuse per 100,000 population, so a level playing field. Looking at the increase in child victims from 2016 to 2017, I can't imagine that our unwanted number 2 position has improved. Some days we each think we are alone in this battle to protect our children and provide the best possible start in life. DCFS, CASA, child welfare agencies, the courts, law enforcement, churches, education, and healthcare. You know, for example, our CASA model of trained volunteers advocating for the child's best interest works very well. But we are appointed after a child is brought under court supervision. And it takes on average 18 to 24 months to find what we call permanence for that child. either in returning to a home, which is now a better place, or finding an adoptive family. Of the 540 children in care right now in our county, over 100 have been in foster care for more than 3 years. That's way too long. Our city and our county desperately need a comprehensive support system where both professionals and community members work together to prevent child abuse before it happens. We invite the whole community to join in this effort. You will hear more from us and our partners who have joined together to form a childhood maltreatment initiative in Macon County. We just have to reduce the number of abused and neglected children using all the tools available to us, be those parent education, employment, easy-to-access services, or old-fashioned neighborly support. I'm so glad that St. Mary's Hospital has chosen to focus on our children through this symbolic but very real act of compassion. Our children need all of us, not only this month, but every day and every month of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Very true words. Our children do need all of us. Thank you to all of our speakers that came out today, and thank you again to all of you for coming out to help us kick off this very important Child Abuse Prevention Month. And again, thank you to St. Mary's for hosting us here today. As we close, we would like to invite all of you to come outside and help us plant pinwheels in the bitter cold to symbolize child abuse prevention. And again, to remind everyone that we all have a role to play and that this is a call to action to protect our children. Thank you.